listening to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, where women who are ready to expand their life adventure discover the tools to stop playing small and tap into the courage required to enjoy their second wind. Welcome.
Welcome. You are listening to Second Wind Podcast, and I'm here to encourage you today to step outside of yourself and play big. You know, the first step any time you're going to do a second wind is you got to know who you are. So you got to spend a little time getting to know you. And that's why I bring on these wonderful guests that I have so that they can sort of be a guide. They can share their learning experience with you. And you will see that they have dreamed really big. They went outside their box. And they can solve the mystery of the don't do's, do do's as you create your future. So I'm so glad you're here today. We have a wonderful guest, which, as you know, I only have wonderful guests. And they will help you make your story easier. You know, it's all about connection. That's how you get there. Connection and finding support. So I thank you for being here, and let me share with you our guest, Lisa Strahs-Lorenc. Did I say that right, my dear?
Pretty close, Strahs-Lorenc.
Good.
Very close.
Strahs-Lorenc. Oh, very good. Okay. She was born and raised in Long Island and she learned to transfer her skills to a number of industries, including nonprofit organizations, software development, personnel, and education. She decided on pursuing a master's degree with a specialization in career counseling because of her own experience graduating from college, not being able to find a job. Wow, that's a bummer. And that's a lot of people have found that, really. So that spurred her on. So she used her career counseling skills to start her own business. And after working in higher education, she was determined to help others find their connections and passions for their own careers. She's worked as career counselor for Suffolk County Community College, Stanford Brown Institute, and continuing education programs of school districts. And what I like about her is she says, I am most proud of my positive, enthusiastic, and energetic outlook on life that I use to motivate and inspire others. Oh, then she also shares, we should all do what we love, and we will love what we do. I love making a difference in the lives of people of all ages and in my local community. I like that. Oh, that's so good. That has got to be sharing. After you went through all the education, you went through college, you thought you were going to get right out and be the prize and move into a nice position. No. And it's so common, though, isn't it, anymore?
It is. It is still very common. And thank you, Joyce, for having me here. And that's just the business part. Wait till I get into the personal life part. But in the business part, who tells people about the careers they can go into and the choices? Who tells them? The guidance people? No, I don't think so. I mean, my guidance person who I was dear friends with in high school, many years later, I said to her, Elmira, I loved school. I loved everything about it. And I went to Syracuse University because it's the best school in the country for early childhood, but I couldn't find a job. I said to her, how come you didn't tell me there were no jobs in early childhood in 1972? And my dear friend Elmira, the guidance counselor, turned around and said to me, because it wasn't my job.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. No. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So she did do her job, as she explained. I was a good student. I stayed in school. I did everything I was supposed to do. She was working, of course, for the people who were truants and people who might drop out of school. Her job was to try to get me to a college. And so she did her job.
Right.
But But what's the rest of the role of people, let's say in high school, where kids are learning certain things and then they're trying to figure out, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? And when I ask people that, they say to me, nobody gave me any guidance. I mean, it's not going to be a parent unless you want to go into the parents industry.
Yes.
Teachers can be motivating because they like their careers, but that doesn't mean that's what the career you want. And then a guidance counselor is busy trying, especially here on Long Island. The percentage rate here of going to college is high because guidance counselors are evaluated that way. Well, do they ever see who dropped out of college in the first year? Do they ever see who actually got a degree? I've got statistics on that. They don't look really good.
Yeah.
And for the people who did get their degree, how many of the people actually use their degree? So
true.
I actually do workshops on transferable skills. I do workshops on, standing out and trying to find yourself. And I do all that because I was really forced into trying to figure out what I would be. And I remember having my first nursery school job, because this is what I wanted to be when I was 4 years old. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, an early childhood teacher. And so after the nursery school went bankrupt, I thought, this is a message. First of all, I couldn't find a job. Then I find a job and the nursery school goes bankrupt. And I'm saying, okay, what am I trained to do? I'm really trained to do nothing else except that I took typing in high school because my parents thought it'd be a good idea to learn typing, right? And typing is a great skill. So I did temporary typing, as a temp typist, because that's all I could do.
You're going to love this. You're going to love this, Lisa. When I went to college, everybody came out with a teaching certificate.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's because teaching would fit in with no matter where your life went. If you married and you were a mom, you could go teach school, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
it was secretary or teacher, remember? Secretary or teacher. Yes.
So really, they weren't training us for women, particularly for a profession, what I would call a professional. Not that teaching isn't a profession. What am I trying to say?
Here's what you're saying. It's still a service industry, and women were still being encouraged to always take care of others. That's what it was. Yes. And times have changed. However, here's the problem still. Guidance counselors, and I don't want to generalize, but guidance counselors in general are not focused on careers. They're focused on having kids go to college. And even if it's a degree they don't use, they're not really focusing on that. And students then have debt and they come out and they're still trying to figure out what they want to be. And that's a problem. And so for the student like my son, all right, who says to a guidance counselor, I'm not going to college. With both his parents, me and my husband, who said to him, that's fine. Find your passion, find what you're good at, find what you love. All right.
Yeah.
The guidance counselor, that doesn't look good for her, turns around and says to him, then you'll be a failure in life.
Oh, no.
That's what she said to him. P.S. The guy who's 32 now, okay, because I love telling the story, 32 years old, did decide to go to college when he was ready, when he wanted to. But the important thing was that he loved retail. He was a manager, assistant store manager at Walmart, went to their management training program, did not have the debt that some of his friends had. Worked part-time and then went to school and stuff, and then ended up at Nestle Corp and owns, listen to this, owns a home which he rents down in Florida because he just got another promotion and now he's in Tampa. And he'll probably be moved again because he's on a ladder up the corporate, world. And his friends are still paying off their student loans and trying to figure out, because the degree they got might not have actually worked, still trying to figure out what they want to do and what they want to be. So my story in the career world is that people have to really, first of all, they need parents to support them.
Yes.
And support them in the best way they can, meaning, find your love, find your passion. What do you want to do? That kind of thing. All right. And stop with these, regular things of you have to do this and it's not going to look good. I mean, how many parents came to me and said to me, oh, I heard your son's not going to college. What are you going to do? And I looked at them like, what? First of all, I'm a parent who advocates for my kid. And secondly, I'm a career counselor. So you picked on the wrong person.
Right.
So the business part is really that every student is different. Every student has different abilities. There's so many wonderful opportunities out here in vocation, in all kinds of areas that people don't know about, and they should have an opportunity to learn about. So my career counseling, this is really my business now, is really the second time I've done a career counseling service. The first time I did in 1985 was really more towards interviewing skills, resumes.
Yes.
I used to type the resumes with my typing abilities. So it was, traditional job search and hunt and things like that. Now it's, hey, let's make sure that you love what you do, discover your skills, transfer them. It's okay to drop out and start something else. What other options do you have? So I do that, and I love that because I really help people find themselves and find what they're best at.
Do you help direct them to the best campuses if they choose to go to college? Do you do that?
No, there are people.
Okay.
No, there are people who what I'll
Yeah.
call college admissions counselors. They help with the application stuff. That's not my area, but
Yeah.
I say to them, well, why do you choose that? And if their answer is because their friend went there, or because it's a nice beach, or whatever, I say you better think again about that, because in the end, whether you're partying or whatever you're doing, you're going to be paying for this education. And is this going to help you in life? What's it going to do for you? So that's really my role at this point, to help people find their, and that, by the way, that's any age. That could be a student in high school. That could be somebody in their 40s and 50s looking for a new career or a job change or something, any of those. But now that's just the career part, Joyce.
Yes.
Let's talk about the personal part in life. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Let's start. You are a combination of the circumstances in life that you really can't change, who you are as a person, because we all have personalities from the time that you were born, forever, and your own attitude and reaction to what happens. Okay.
Yes.
So let me go over challenging times where people say to me, well, with all that, you should be a depressed person. You should be somebody who, is angry at life and whatever. You see, there are choices that you can make, even though you may not be able to control things in your life. Okay.
Yeah.
And I say that because I'm an author and I want you to know what I've done and why. So when I was 2 years old, my biological mother was killed by a car. She was pregnant, and she was an only child, and her mother, my grandmother, was in that car as well. Now she stepped out of the car and ran across the street, so it's only my mother who was killed, but I was 2, and I'm sure there was a lot going on at that time for a 2-year-old, and in those days they didn't talk about death or anything. Who knows what they told me? Okay. I really no clue. When I was 4 years old, I got my new mom, a really loving mother, great woman, somebody who couldn't have a child, biological child, so fit in really well. Okay, so we were family.
So you were adopted.
I was.
I'm an adoptive parent.
Yeah. Oh, nice. And I worked in an adoption agency.
Oh, good. Yay.
I love adoption. Yeah, my mother was advised to adopt me so that she wouldn't be called my stepmother. And legally, she would be my mother and there wouldn't be any question or anything. So, yes. Okay. So, and that's good to hear. By the way, my adoption agency was international. So our children came from all over the world. Yeah. Pretty interesting, right?
Yes.
Okay. So going on with this, when I was 30 years old, I got a phone call from Toronto that my father had died of a massive heart attack in a hotel room. Shock of my life. That was 1984. And I made a lot of changes. And again, choices, Joyce. Made a lot of changes in my life. I decided not to work for somebody. I decided to start my own business. I decided I really wanted a child. My husband and I had been around together for a long time. We had put this off for a while. So, certain decisions that you make moving forward. Okay. I was very close to my father. It was a huge loss. And all these years, him not being there. All right. Then when I was 46, my new mom died. She was 72. Okay. And then
was young. Now that I'm close, that's young.
2000 and she was 1970. It's being 72 is young. And then in 2009, my husband died of pancreatic cancer. I was 55 years old. He was 56. So you look at deaths in your family or in how you're affected, and you could say, hey, that's depressing. I mean, that's a horrible situation. How could you even look happily at that? So now let's go into personality. So I was raised with unconditional love, which really helps, and a belief in yourself, which really helps, and a value of life. And so I believe that life was precious. I knew it could be gone in a second. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I did in my life was important, was special. Yes. I appreciated every single day of my life. And I do now. And so those deaths and the death of my husband, change you obviously a lot, but also refocus you and make sure that you, first of all, I'm grateful because all these people were amazingly loving, wonderful people in my life, and I'm grateful to have had them. And secondly, from their deaths come a new motivation to do everything I can do to take advantage of life at its best and to live life in a happy, wonderful way. So hence, only a couple months after my husband died, I said, I'm going to write a book. I've never written a book before. I love writing, but so we have an organization here in Long Island called the Lustgarten Foundation. And it is 100% monies go to pancreatic research and eventual cure. Okay. It's actually supported by a company here on Long Island whose vice president had it. So 100%. So I said, you know what, I want to do something for this organization. They were very supportive of me when I'd make phone calls, get information. And so I said, I'm going to write a support book, and the support book is going to be for families so that families could learn from each other. I felt so alone and I didn't know anything. And so my first book was published self-published on September 3rd, 1975. I'm sorry, on September 3rd, 2010. And I want to say September 3rd for a reason. So September 3rd, 1975 is when my husband and I met. Okay. September 3rd, 1977 is when we got engaged. And so September 3rd, 2010 is when I published the book. And that's how you remember people. That's how, anniversaries and special occasions and all. So I published this book called Pancreatic Cancer, It's a Family Affair. And it came out with 20 families, 22 people helped write it, basically contribute to it. And with pictures, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful support book. It's on Amazon to this day. And as I said, monies go to the Lustgarten Foundation. So I kept living my life. About 10 years ago, I met a fellow widow and widower, and he and I have a great relationship. We have a wonderful partnership, and we're having a wonderful life together. And so I've created a new life as my husband would like, because he often said to me, make sure that you live your life fully and please don't be alone the rest of your life, he said. So, and of course I have these 2 children. I have a daughter and I have 3 granddaughters out in California, and I have my son and all. So I have, a life. I truly do. But I said, you know what, I would like to help people. It's, it's 10 years down the road now. I would like to get in touch with these families again and find out how they're doing. Like, how are they moving on? So I wrote a second book called Pancreatic Cancer, Families Move On. And it's all about what happens to us as the years go by and how we've all dealt with our grief and our new lives. And so this
great idea.
Thank you.
Great idea.
So out of the 20 families, 12 wrote in the second one.
Yeah.
And I have it by time so that we can all, what happens in the first year, how do you feel? The second year, the 5th year, the 10th year. And I have it broken down so that anybody, it doesn't mean pancreatic cancer, anybody who's had a loss can look and say, hey, I'm in my second year. How is it? How do other people feel during that time?
Mhm.
So I want to go back to deciding on your life.
Mhm.
So even though those things I had no control over, my attitude and who I am really brought about what I'm doing and how I'm living. You
Mhm.
know, so many
Mhm.
people get stuck and say, I can't do anything. Woe is me and what's going to happen in my life. But that's really not true because
Mhm.
you can look at it differently and you can see it. I know it's hard for people to be positive if they're always negative,
Yeah.
especially if they're negative. That's hard.
Yes.
But you know what? It's worth working on because you'll live a
Mhm.
better life and you'll live a happier life if you do
Right.
that. So I want
Right.
to mention one more thing because it's pertinent. I started a YouTube video series called
Ah.
The End of Life Journey and Beyond.
Mhm.
And I partnered with an end of life doula. And she works with people who are dying or who have been given a life sentence. And I work with people who are in grief, bereavement. And
Yes.
together we make these videos once a week. And it's all about living life to the fullest, celebrating life, whether the person is here or not, whether you have a life sentence or not. And we have guests on sometimes who might be, elder lawyers or hospice people or
Mhm.
maybe Alzheimer's disease, people who will
Yes.
information. And of course, it's free and it's on
Mhm.
YouTube.
Mhm.
And it's discussions. It's just discussions. And every week we highlight another discussion that would be helpful to people. So that, at this point in my life, I've been doing the things that I believe in. I have as you said, a huge background, especially nonprofits. I really like nonprofits, done a lot of work with nonprofits.
Right.
I've also done a lot of volunteer work, of course, myself. Spend time with my friends, spend time with my family, visiting my grandchildren, and doing these other things that I feel can help people and help
Mhm.
people, with their lives and change their lives.
Yeah.
So that's what I believe in, Joyce.
Well, is that it? My goodness.
That's
Uh,
it.
now, when you talk about the grief, are you talking about only those that are through disease and death that way? Are you talking about the COVID people as well who have suffered tremendously
So,
this year?
so interesting because October 11th, we have someone whose brother died of COVID.
Yes.
And I think that grief, because it's anger and
Mhm.
it's guilt that he died the way he did and she didn't get to see him. And all those things are also important topics,
Mhm.
especially now, the people going through.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
One of the things that I think is so unique about the COVID death is that there's a greater separation during the passing, in that they're not allowed, and I totally understand it. It's just the
Mhm.
circumstances
Yeah.
are so different. And
Yes.
so they're not allowed to, other than maybe through the phone or that way, to say goodbye, to hold
Yeah.
their hand, to give them a kiss on the cheek or anything like that. And so
Painful.
the grieving has to be almost a little deeper because
Painful.
of this.
Horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. Because my husband's last life was at home and
Uh-huh.
hospice. And we were able to look at videos and pictures and have people visit and stuff. And not to have that, I can't even imagine how painful that must be.
Yeah.
Pain.
Yeah, for sure. You
Yes.
mentioned something that you did, and we've gone down a little similar path here.
Okay.
In January, I lost my ex-husband and my
Mhm.
sister within the same month. And it
Oh,
was I'd seen grandmother go, I'd seen my mother go, but and they both went from disease, not COVID,
right.
but it was a good death in that they were put out of their
Yes.
misery, you know. But even so, it was such a shock to me to really, for the first time, experience grief, experience it. And it kind of just explodes your world, doesn't it?
It does. I want to, it's interesting about grief because, we all go through it. And in fact, if you don't allow yourself to go through it, you will suffer in other ways. I
Yeah.
promise you that. It
Yeah.
comes out in anger, it comes out in withdrawal. There are many things.
Mhm.
And actually, a rabbi at my mother's funeral said that the amount of tears that somebody cries for someone is a testament to the love that you had for them.
Oh, Nice.
Okay. So when
Yeah.
people are afraid to cry, I say that
Mhm.
to them. Okay.
Mhm.
And in the back of my book, I wrote something really beautiful. Another rabbi who wrote something. I think the key, first of all, is to keep that person alive in your heart.
Right.
And I do things purposely, and I encourage people purposely not to just say, oh, they died and they're gone. You need to continue to talk about them. You need to continue to smile and tell stories and keep all those things alive. We talk about my husband to my grandchildren. Grandpa Fred was this, and he would have liked this, and he was doing this.
Mhm.
And that really, it's very helpful. I also have a memorial site. It's an online memorial site. And I
Yes.
love that. It's the Eternal
Yes.
Portal site. And it's
Yes.
great to be able to have something, right? But let me tell you about interesting thing about grief. And it's in a picture on this YouTube video series. So everybody thinks you have this jar and you have this ball of grief, okay? And as time goes on, your jar is the same and your grief ball gets smaller and smaller. That's not true. I'm going to tell you how.
Oh, you're going to break the myth.
I'm
Okay,
going to
go
tell you
ahead.
how it really is. Tell you how it really is, because I think it's very helpful to really see it the way it is. You have a jar and you have that ball of grief. That ball of grief is still grief all through years, all through your life. However, the jar and the amount of life you have there becomes bigger.
I
So
like that.
isn't that beautiful?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And let me read something, okay?
Okay.
Because it really shows what people need to think about as they've lost their loved ones or friends,
Right.
even friends too. Okay, here it is. At the rising of the sun and its setting, we will remember you. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we will remember you. At the opening of the buds and the rebirth of spring, we will remember you. At the blueness of the skies and the warmth of summer, we will remember you. At the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember you. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember you. For as long as we live, because you are part of us, we will remember you.
Very nice. Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
I'm living a great life. I'm so grateful. However, my husband and I were supposed to grow old together. That's not
True.
what happened.
Yeah.
My husband should have seen his grandchildren. He didn't. And so it's okay to still grieve over that. It's okay to still be sad over that.
Yeah.
It's not okay to not continue your life because that person would want you to.
Right.
And life is
Yeah.
different. Life will never be the same.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is to show the love that we had for those people, to continue and live to the fullest we can.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm sorry for your loss. And again, celebrate their lives in the ways that they would smile
Yeah.
in what means something to you with them.
Mhm.
That's the best.
Well, you did one of the things that I was encouraged to do, and I was quite surprised that I enjoyed it because of an old tape that I had running in my brain, and that was write.
Yes.
So I sat down and I started writing, and I mean, I started enjoying the writing, just getting the grief. I talked about the good times, the bad times, the whatever time, just time.
Yes.
I talked about the pain, I talked about everything. And it was just so amazing to be able to do that. And I think writing is such a wonderful release
I
for
do
so
too.
many of us.
I do too. I also have to mention that support groups. I was in a heal group, help ease a loss, and there were people who had lost different types of people. People lost children, people lost parents, people lost spouses, all different types. And that's helpful to be around people who understand,
Yes.
what you're going through. Your friends
Yeah.
love you and all your relatives do, but they don't know what it's like to
Right.
go through that loss. So I think
Yeah.
that's really important as well. Again, my whole point here is the choices we make, the opportunities we have, we create some of those. And yes, some of the circumstances we can't change, but we can certainly change what we decide to do with them. Our
Yeah.
attitude, our love of life, our belief that we deserve to be happy.
Uh-huh.
We deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
Some people don't understand that. I say that to them and they say, well, that isn't something I ever thought about. Well, you better think about it before it's too late. You deserve to be happy.
Right.
Yeah.
So how many people do you see in their middle and later lives that are starting over? Is
Lot.
that more common than we think it is?
It is. It is. And of course, COVID did it too. COVID said, hey, you can't go out. You have to figure out something in. And so they had to try and figure out, okay, now what skills do I have in? Or what else do I want to do in?
Right.
You know, and they have it. You have to, first of all, you got to believe in yourself, and you have to take a few risks. And you have to say, hey, if I fail, what's the worst that happens? I fail and I try something else. But that takes confidence in yourself.
Right.
And encouragement, by the way, from others.
Right.
If you don't have support from the people who love you, that's tough, because you got to go it alone then. I
love listening to those YouTube motivational videos that, you know, Denzel Washington, I mean, everybody, McKay, the guy from Longview, Texas, McKay, he lives in Texas now. He's a professor.
Okay.
Oh, what's his name? Anyway, just great speakers and very motivational. And, you know, it's so wonderful to go listen to those, because every once in a while we need somebody that just fires us, you know, just says it.
Yes.
And there's so much that's good that you can go and listen to. I know
Absolutely.
for the grieving, that'd be wonderful for your YouTube program.
Yeah, I'll tell you it again, because it's a long name. It's called The End of Life Journey and Beyond. It actually has a colon, and then it says The Sands of Time. But if they start searching The End of Life Journey and Beyond, they will probably see it. It's pretty. It's got sand, and it's like on a beach and sunset. It's really pretty. The background is really pretty. And as I said, most people just choose one or two videos that resonate with them. You know, they were worried about a particular feeling or stage or whatever, and they can just pick that video. And most of the videos are, you know, half an hour, sometimes 40 minutes. As I said, sometimes we have a guest. So, you know, nice opportunity to, you know, get some support.
Yes.
And then my website for that, for the second book is www.familiesmoveon.com.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And in fact, my email address is lisamovingon@gmail.com.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, what's the Go Career Compass?
Yes. So Go Career Compass is right. So my business email address is lisa@gocareercompass.com. Yes. And that website has that had blogs, it has articles, it has some interesting things for people to learn more about their own career lives and other options that might have. It also has all of my workshops on it. I did a workshop. I did a workshop on transferable skills. I did a workshop on how to use LinkedIn, because some people don't really use it to the best they could. I did a workshop on internships for students who needed to figure out how to get an internship. And I did a workshop on standing out. Like, how do you really distinguish yourself from others? And that's
now, are these on Zoom? I mean, are they workshops on the internet?
Yeah, well, I put them, so I put them on, I recorded them. And then it's through like a teaching site thing, a fresh sales thing. They're minimal money. They're very little. And, you know, people can stop them and start them at their own pace. But it's nice because I call them mini workshops. You know, it's information, it's tips, it's helpful, you know.
Well, I went to your website, as I normally do. I like to check you ladies out, or whoever my guest is. And there was one that I liked, the top 10 growing industries to break into in 2021. Today is all about you was another one.
Yes.
And then there's a sample of resources for Long Island job seekers.
I am friends with somebody at the Suffolk County Department of Labor.
Yeah.
And he's great. He gives me a lot of great tips. He's a great colleague and a great friend. And so I like to get blogs from professionals and people who can give advice. Yes. I like sharing.
Here's one called Vides. Can negative comments be deleted on
So,
the internet?
okay, so Juan Vitas is an
Vetus. Oh,
Vitas,
sorry, I changed his name.
that's his name. So he's an SEO expert. So he
Uh-huh.
does search engine optimization and he understands all the online stuff. So his thing was all about, okay, what happens if you're a business and people start posting bad things about you and stuff? So, he talks about how to respond to that. How do you comment on it? What do you do about it? Things like that. He wants you
Yeah.
to address it, but it's an interesting article and
I
it's
bet
something
it
especially
is.
as a lot of business people, endure all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Not everybody's happy with
Oh,
everybody.
that's so true. And I think there's a lot more anger these days just because we're so frustrated by this ongoing virus.
I know.
So, I swear that if I jump out too early and I'm driving, that car is going to speed up to hit me. Have you experienced that?
It's
They don't
it's a
drive like
very
that in Long Island, do they? No.
no. Listen, I was born and raised here. Long Island is an interesting place, I have to say. It's unfortunate that it's expensive
Mhm.
because we do have beautiful beaches and we do have beautiful parks and recreation and we do have top schools and all. But you know what? We have the highest tax rate and stuff, and it's very it's challenging to live
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Long Island has two counties and I mean, we're 21 miles wide, and I don't even know how long, but like a fish,
Mhm.
two fins and all. It's a very interesting place, but
Uh-huh.
we lose people because it is tough. It's a challenging place to live.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of
Yeah.
course I'm a New Yorker, so New Yorkers have good and bad reputations. We are known to be pretty fast paced, very driven. When
Mhm.
my son got down to Florida, they love the fact that he was from New York because he says that we have a reputation of working harder than other people do. So we are definitely driven, I have to say, but he is definitely driven. So as my daughter, so I think that might just be personality, more than
Yeah.
anything. But
Right.
yeah, that the website, I want it to be educational. I try to change out the articles too, by the way. There are articles in there as well. And I want to change them out so that people read different articles and see different things. I also have a newsletter, and if people sign up for it, I let people know what's going on once in a while, every month, whatever. Like this one was tomorrow. I'm partnering. I like to partner with people. I'm partnering with two other career professionals, and we're doing Are You at a Fork in the Road in your career journey? And there's a fork, a literal fork in the road.
Yes.
And the three of us do presentations. It's tomorrow, 12:30. And if they actually go on any of my LinkedIn stuff, I should spell my last name so people see it. Or Lisa moving on, they can, at gmail.com, or Lisa at Go Career Compass. If they want to link to me on LinkedIn, I got 3,400 contacts. It's Lisa, and it's Strahs-Lorenc. It's STRAHS-LORENC. So they can link in with me and see some of the things that I posted and all, and they can read my my profile. But tomorrow's workshop has three presentations. My presentation is about transferable skills. The next one is about networking and business search to find a job. And the last one is about using LinkedIn and your social media. So all three of us, for a nominal fee, give a really good presentation. And eventually what I'll do is I'll record it, and eventually I'll have it on the website as well to buy alone. But listen, people are at different stages in their careers. And by the way, even as they get older, they need to think about what they still enjoy. If they want to be retired fully, that's great. But you know what? That's not for everybody. So it might be a special hobby that they enjoy, or something else that they've always talked about. I would love to do this. Just here's the thing for people. I don't like when people say in 10 years from now, whatever, because it might not happen. And so, I caution people not to wait forever and not to put things off too much, because you don't know what the plans are and you don't know what's going to happen. So you can look forward to certain things, but, don't forsake your life. Saying eventually, you hear these stories, eventually I'm going to retire, and then the person drops dead. I mean,
or they retire and they discover it's not what they want to do.
Exactly. Exactly. You're right. You're right. There's so many options for people now, so many more than I think as we were growing up, I feel, in the 50s and 60s and all. So, at this stage in my life, I think that people are trying to see what they enjoy. We're all living longer. I mean, I have a 94-year-old friend who was my mom's best friend. She's 94, and my mom died. She was 72, and here she is still alive. And I still have, an aunt who's 96, a cousin who's 99, and my aunt and
Oh
uncle are
my.
90. His
Yes.
cousin in Chicago was one of the women, like a league of their own, who was a woman pitcher on a women's softball team
Oh,
back
yes.
in, I guess, the 30s. And she was
Oh,
making more money than her father, who was a milkman, and she would bring home the money to him.
oh,
How's
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Interesting, right? She's 99. What she
Oh
is life.
my
Think about that. Think about
gosh.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
I find as I age that things are not as important to me as I used to think they were.
Yeah.
So when somebody thinks about when they sit down, because I did have sort of a life change in the way I wanted to work my business. I wanted to stay in stuff that I only got pleasure out of. So I dropped a few things, and I kept the podcast because I have so much fun meeting all you people. I like that. So, but I think it's the hardest thing, and I think we need to give ourselves some space to be able to do that. So you've been on this road, the road's rocky, the road's not any fun anymore. Then you sit down and you decide what you really love that's in your life and love what you do.
Absolutely. And you don't want to regret anything. Irma Bombeck wrote, "Why did I spend so much time cleaning the house?" That's what she wrote when she was dying. That's what she wrote.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to remember her for how clean her house was,
Yes.
So
that's true. So give
yeah.
myself some grace when I'm got these piles over here. Just let yourself go.
Who cares? Really? Who cares?
Yeah. So where do you go when you want a day of freedom and just pleasure? What do you do?
I have that every day. You know why? Because every day I create my day. I really decide what who I want to talk to, what virtual networking group I want to go to, whether I want to walk to the beach, which is right down the block, whether we're going out to dinner, whether we're making something, whether we're grilling. There's so many choices in my life. And I know I'm very grateful. I'm very lucky because there are people who don't have as many choices, and you have to create. You have to now make sure you got to go out. You got to give yourself some time. You got to walk around the lake, smell the roses. You have to make that happen. I have that happen. It's easy for me. For other people, they need to figure it out better. During the year and a half that I did not see my grandchildren because of COVID, okay, every day I made sure that I was on Duo and I played games with them on the phone. I mean, we played Scrabble on the phone. We did puzzles on the phone. With the little ones, I played snakes and ladders. I mean, this was important time. I didn't want to lose them, and I didn't want them to lose me as part of their lives. And it's tough, but again, these were important. So you figure out what gives you pleasure, what you want. Really just having lunch with my girlfriends, calling up somebody I haven't seen in a while. I'm planning my 50th reunion from high school now.
Oh,
and
good.
they said to me, "Oh, that's important." I said, "Yeah, it is important. I loved high school. I had a great time." And here I am now, co-chair of the committee. And, is it a lot of work? Yeah, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
I bet you like your birthday too.
I love
Do
my
you?
birthday. I was raised. Here's the thing. These people who dread their birthdays, it's inconceivable to me. I don't even understand it. A birthday is the celebration of your birth. Nobody else was born at that time, and that, unless you're a twin, that time, that day, that hour, that, all right. And so you celebrate the fact that now you have, years that you've been born. And so for me, my father always did a special thing. We always went a special place. And then I'd meet people and I'd say, okay, I can't wait to celebrate your birthday. And they look at me and they say, well, I don't celebrate my birthday. And I look at them like, what? What?
Miss an opportunity for a party?
Yeah, exactly. I've made surprise parties for my partner who never had a surprise party before. He had no clue. I made him a 65th and a 70th. He had no clue. And to see his face when he walked in and saw all those people and oh my, priceless. And my mother for her 70th, she thought she was coming to our anniversary because that's the invitation she got. And but it was her birthday. I had 98 people in a room from her childhood, from kindergarten all the way up.
Oh my goodness.
And she walked in and she just stood against the wall. She had no idea, but you know what? Everybody was there for her. Yeah. Everybody was there to say, I love you, care about you, and you're important to me. And that helps her live a couple more years, Yeah. So I don't know why. I love saying I'm 67. I'm so proud to be 67. I have lived more than my 26-year-old mother, my 57-year-old father, my 56-year-old husband, and eventually, hopefully, older than my 72-year-old mother. You know, I love it. Why don't
all right,
people
I've got
that?
another question for you. I hope you'll share. I'm sure you will. How, so many people will lose a partner, and
they will,
and they don't allow themselves to move into another relationship.
I know.
And so I wonder if you'd share kind of how you did that.
I have, you know what, and I want to say that they have the right not to. I want to bring up my mom. My mom, my second mom, my adopted mom, was divorced. And in those 50s, that's a horrible thing. And so now she's gone through divorce. She's gone through the death of my father. And she'd tell all her friends, she was only 57. She'd tell all her friends, don't set me up with anybody. I don't want it. And I got to understand that it was her life. That even though people thought, oh, you're lonely and you should have somebody, she was very happy. So I don't think that the answer is everybody better go find somebody. But I do think the answer is get in touch with how you feel. For the first 2 years, I never would have dated anybody. I wasn't interested. My partner here was on Match, dated at least 50 women, at least. He was on Match, he was on all, eHarmony, whatever it was. He enjoyed that. He wasn't at that point, he wasn't looking really for a mate, but he enjoyed seeing people and socializing. For me, it was just being in touch with being a single person again and being an individual. So now you have to find yourself again, find confidence to do new things and branch out, but give yourself some time and stay open to whatever happens in your life. We were a blind date, had no clue that we'd ever be together, and it didn't work out, by the way, at first. It was not love at first sight at all.
Oh, no.
So, not at all. Not at all. So, we've gone through some of the process of really getting to know each other and then breaking up and doing it again and all. And it, as I said, it's, more than 10 years now. But you have to, first of all, you have to allow yourself permission to be happy. And number two, don't say, I have to find somebody just like my husband or my wife. You can't say that. That's unfair to the person who died. And that's unfair to you and the new person. You have to say, hey, what kind of person do I enjoy being with? What kind of person would help me, live a good life, make me happy? I'll tell you something. This partner I have is very different from my husband. Very different. But now in my life, he's the perfect person for me.
Yes.
He would not be the right person years before. Would not. Yeah. And same thing, I'm sure I'm very different from his wife. So part of it is attitude. Part of it is putting yourself in those positions. I started going to some singles groups. I did this stupid speed networking thing, which I hated. I hated it. It is just so dumb. Really, in 5 minutes, how can you even decide you like somebody? It's dumb. But you know what? Some people do it. Some people go on sites, some people, whatever. You just have to see that life has many different options. And you have to understand, don't push yourself because listen, I have somebody in my book who dated after 4 months and his children went crazy. Okay.
Yes.
They didn't like that. But you know what? He was married 51 years and he was lonely.
Yeah.
And you know what? Why? What's wrong with that? So it's not about time. It's not about situation. It's really a personal thing that people have to get in touch with and give themselves permission to be happy if that's where they want. Listen, people in my book, some people married, some people didn't, some people just, they all have different paths. Just allow yourself to find your path and find the new part of your life. My partner calls it slices of life. Yes. I like to call it chapters. They're life chapters.
Yes.
And so this chapter might close and the new chapter opens and you go on with your story of your life and all. There's so many wonderful things that life brings. And you just have to allow yourself to enjoy those things, My grandchildren are amazing. And my children growing up now as adults and my friends and what we share now and relatives and being in touch with people and helping people and helping them change their lives and doing different things in my life and keeping it interesting. That's really life. It's really life.
They probably only do that speed dating in New York because y'all talk so fast. They'd have to extend it to 15 minutes in the South.
That's right. I'm telling you, it's the craziest thing I've ever done. It really is crazy. But, and I even joined a singles group just for activities. I went whitewater rafting and we had such a ball. And I met one of my dear friends, girlfriends on it. Yeah. I still have high school friends. I still have friends who I've known since birth.
Yes.
So it's wonderful to be able to have different parts of your life, sharing different aspects of your life. And you just have to keep open. Attitude is so much. Happiness that you deserve it, that you want to live fully.
Well, okay. Now we are sadly approaching the end of our time together. But
this has been so wonderful to us.
I'm
really
so glad. I've had
Thank you for letting me talk.
Okay, I'd like to close with the same two questions, but hopefully the answers are different with everyone. So the first of my questions would be, would you share any pitfall to avoid on my listeners' journey, whatever their journey is?
Okay. Preconceived notions and the shoulds in your life. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Shoulds.
Yeah.
Watch those.
That's a good one. Yeah. They come from down through the generations, don't they?
They do. They do.
Yeah. And the next one is, what was your greatest success?
Oh, God. Yeah.
That's a hard one.
It is hard because, you can talk about your career and you can talk about different things. I guess it's being a mom, raising children with beliefs and ideals and looking at another generation and, being a good human being and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that. I always wanted to have children and, you see yourself in them and they become their own people. They're not like me, but they become their own people. Right. But being a parent is an amazing journey. And being a grandparent is even more interesting.
Even more fun. Yay.
Even more fun. It is. Joyce, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for all the questions.
Thank you. My listeners have so much good information from this call that I know they will go to your website. And there's so many websites, but they could go to gocareercompass.com or they can, where would the other ones?
To the book. They can go to www.familiesmoveon.com.
Yeah.
And then they should also look at the YouTube video series, which is the End of Life Journey and Beyond, and the Sands of Time.
Yes. Wonderful. Yeah.
And again, they can email me, lisamovingon@gmail.com or lisa@gocareercompass.com.
Okay.
if they want some career kind of things. And they should look at my workshops and see if there's anything that resonates with them, and
Yeah.
let them know that they are never too old. They are, and that they have the opportunities of a lifetime to make the changes that they want in their lives.
Yes. We are in agreement there for sure.
Yeah.
For
We
sure.
are. We are.
So, dear listeners, I want to say that this week is a new week coming up. One thing you can do for your friends is what I always encourage my listeners to do: share it. Share this with a friend that needs a little boost, that needs a little pick me up, so that they can go out and create the new them, or they can begin thinking about what a new them would be like. So anyway, I really encourage you to take that step for your good friends, help them move on, and keep in mind that you create your reality through your thoughts and your beliefs and your actions. So take responsibility for you. You can make the world magical. So thank you for being here this week. And thank you, Lisa, for being here. It was such a treat to have you here with me this week.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. So go out there, make it a great week. It only rolls around once. Okay. Bye, folks.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.